Welcome back to Today we will learn about the devastating issue that has torn apart one of Salem's most controversial couples and left EJ DiMera facing his darkest hour yet. The desperate plea, EJ's last stand for redemption in what promises to be one of the most emotionally charged episodes in recent memory. EJ DiMera finds himself at rock bottom, preparing to execute the most humiliating yet heartfelt gesture of his tumultuous life. Sources reveal that the usually proud and commanding DiMera patriarch will abandon all dignity and literally drop to his knees before Belle Black, begging for her forgiveness in a scene that will leave viewers questioning everything they thought they knew about this complex character. This isn't merely a romantic reconciliation attempt. It's a calculated yet genuinely desperate maneuver born from a father's unconditional love for his son. EJ's willingness to prostrate himself before the woman who declared him dead to her represents the ultimate sacrifice of his notorious DiMera pride. The man who once commanded boardrooms and manipulated entire families now finds himself powerless, reduced to pleading for mercy from the very person his courtroom machinations betrayed. The upcoming scenes will showcase EJ's internal torment as he grapples with the devastating consequences of his actions. His legal genius, which once seemed infallible, has crumbled spectacularly, leaving him not only without Belle, but also watching helplessly as Johnny faces the terrifying prospect of imprisonment. The weight of these failures has transformed the once arrogant attorney into a broken man willing to sacrifice everything for even the slimmest chance of redemption. The Courtroom Catastrophe. When legal strategy becomes personal destruction, the August 8th episode that changed everything began as what EJ believed would be his masterstroke. A brilliant legal maneuver that would free his son while maintaining his relationship with Belle. Instead, it became the catalyst for his complete downfall, exposing the fundamental flaw in EJ's character. His inability to separate his personal relationships from his ruthless pursuit of victory. The courthouse drama unfolded with devastating precision. Judge after judge watched as EJ's carefully constructed strategy imploded before their eyes. His attempt to exploit his intimate relationship with Belle as grounds for a mistrial wasn't just legally dubious, it was morally bankrupt. The judicial system, designed to seek truth and justice, saw through EJ's theatrical performance with crystal clarity, refusing to grant the retrial he desperately sought. Belle's reaction in that courtroom moment was visceral and immediate. The woman who had opened her heart to EJ, who had defended him against her mother's warnings, suddenly saw the true extent of his manipulation. The realization that their passionate encounter at the Salem Inn had been strategically timed to create this very courtroom scenario left her feeling not just betrayed, but fundamentally violated. She had been reduced to a legal pawn in EJ's chess game, her emotions and trust weaponized for his son's defense. The public humiliation was unbearable. Belle, respected district attorney and member of one of Salem's most prominent families, found her professional reputation tarnished by her association with EJ's underhanded tactics. The whispers in the courthouse corridors, the knowing looks from colleagues, and the media attention all combined to create a perfect storm of personal and professional devastation. The mother's warning. Marlena's prophetic concerns. Marlena Evans' maternal instincts had been screaming warnings about EJ DiMera from the very beginning of his relationship with Belle. The renowned psychiatrist, with her decades of experience reading human nature and her intimate knowledge of the DiMera family's destructive patterns, recognized the danger signs that love-struck Belle chose to ignore. Marlena's concerns weren't rooted in mere prejudice or family rivalry. They were based on cold, clinical observation of EJ's behavioral patterns. She had witnessed firsthand the wreckage EJ left in his wake throughout his tumultuous history in Salem. From his manipulation of Sammy Brady to his various criminal enterprises, EJ's track record painted a clear picture of a man who prioritized his own interests above the well-being of those who loved him. The prophetic nature of Marlena's warnings now haunts Belle as she reflects on their conversations. Every concerned look, every gentle suggestion to reconsider, every attempt to protect her daughter from inevitable heartbreak, all of it now seems tragically prescient. Belle's acknowledgement that she should have listened to her mother adds another layer of pain to her already overwhelming emotional burden. The family dynamics have shifted dramatically in the aftermath of the courtroom debacle. Marlena, while devastated to see her daughter hurt, maintains her compassionate approach, ready to support Belle through this crisis while carefully avoiding any "I told you so" moments that might further damage their relationship. The Salem in Betrayal. When passion becomes manipulation, the steamy encounter between Belle and EJ at the Salem Inn, which should have been a moment of genuine intimacy and connection, has been retroactively poisoned by the revelation of EJ's ulterior motives. What Belle experienced as passionate romance now feels like calculated seduction, designed to create the very compromising situation EJ would later exploit in court. The psychological impact of this betrayal extends far beyond simple romantic disappointment. Belle must now question every moment of their relationship, wondering which expressions of love were genuine and which were strategic manipulations. The kisses, the whispered promises, the vulnerable conversations. All of it is now tainted by suspicion and doubt. The location itself, the Salem Inn, has become a symbol of her naivety. The luxurious hotel room that should hold memories of passion and connection instead represents the scene of her deception. Every detail of that encounter now carries new meaning. EJ's timing, his particular enthusiasm, his seemingly spontaneous romantic gestures, all potentially calculated elements in a broader strategy to create leverage for Johnny's defense. The violation Belle feels goes beyond emotional betrayal into something approaching psychological abuse. She trusted EJ with her body, her heart, and her professional reputation, only to discover that her vulnerability had been weaponized against her. This realization has fundamentally altered her ability to trust her own judgment in future relationships. The overreaction debate, justified response or emotional excess. The Salem community finds itself divided on whether Belle's dramatic response to EJ's betrayal represents appropriate boundary setting or an emotional overreaction driven by hurt pride. This debate reveals deeper questions about forgiveness, accountability, and the complex nature of love in the face of betrayal. Those defending Belle point to the calculated nature of EJ's deception and the professional damage it caused to her career. They argue that his willingness to exploit their intimate relationship for legal advantage represents a fundamental violation of trust that no romantic partner should be expected to forgive. The public humiliation alone, they contend, justifies her decisive action to end the relationship. However, others suggest that Belle's reaction, while understandable, may be disproportionate to EJ's actual intentions. They point out that EJ's primary motivation wasn't to hurt Belle, but to save his son from prison, a goal that any parent might pursue with similar desperation. From this perspective, Belle's immediate declaration that EJ is dead to her seems unnecessarily final and harsh. The comparison to Belle's own potential behavior in similar circumstances adds another layer to this debate. Would Belle have employed equally questionable tactics if her own daughter Claire were facing imprisonment? The answer to this hypothetical question colors how observers judge both EJ's actions and Belle's response. Parental love versus romantic loyalty. The impossible choice at the heart of this entire tragedy lies an impossible choice between parental obligation and romantic commitment, a choice that EJ ultimately failed to navigate successfully. His love for Johnny, while admirable in its intensity, blinded him to the damage his actions would inflict on his relationship with Belle. The psychology of parental protection is powerful and primal, often overriding rational decision-making in moments of crisis. EJ's desperation to save Johnny from prison activated every protective instinct he possessed, leading him to employ tactics he might normally consider beneath him. This isn't to excuse his behavior, but rather to understand the emotional context that drove his decisions. Johnny's situation has become increasingly dire as the trial progresses, with testimony from key witnesses painting an increasingly damning picture of his alleged crimes. The pressure on EJ to find any possible avenue for his son's defense has intensified with each passing day, creating a pressure cooker environment where desperate measures begin to seem reasonable. The tragic irony is that EJ's attempt to save one family relationship ultimately destroyed another. His success in maintaining his role as Johnny's protector came at the complete cost of his romantic future with Belle, creating a Pyrrhic victory that leaves him emotionally devastated despite any potential legal success. The professional aftermath. Belle's career in Jeopardy. The courtroom revelation of Belle's romantic relationship with EJ has created a professional crisis that extends far beyond personal heartbreak. As Salem's district attorney, Belle's credibility and judgment are now under intense scrutiny from colleagues, superiors, and the public at large. The ethical implications of a prosecuting attorney engaging in a romantic relationship with the defense counsel in a major criminal case have created a media firestorm that threatens to overshadow the actual trial proceedings. Legal experts are questioning whether Belle should have recused herself from the case entirely, and her decision-making process is being dissected in legal journals and local newspapers. Mayor Paulina Price finds herself in the uncomfortable position of managing this crisis, while trying to maintain public confidence in the district attorney's office. The political ramifications of keeping Belle in her position versus removing her create a complex web of considerations that go far beyond the personal drama between Belle and EJ. The long-term impact on Belle's legal career remains uncertain, but the damage to her professional reputation may prove more lasting than her romantic heartbreak. The legal community has a long memory for ethical lapses, and this incident could follow Belle for years to come, affecting everything from case assignments to judicial appointments. EJ's Final Gambit. The humiliation strategy as EJ prepares for his ultimate act of desperation, kneeling before Belle to beg for forgiveness. He faces the complete dismantling of everything that once defined him. The proud DiMera heir, accustomed to commanding respect through power and intimidation, must now rely on vulnerability and genuine remorse to achieve his goals. This reversal represents more than tactical desperation. It reveals EJ's evolution as a character. The man who once believed that manipulation and control were sufficient to achieve any objective now understands that genuine human connection requires honesty, vulnerability, and the willingness to accept consequences for one's actions. The physical act of kneeling carries deep symbolic weight in EJ's cultural and personal context. For a man raised in the DiMera tradition of dominance and control, this gesture represents the complete abandonment of the persona that has defined him for decades. It's a psychological death and potential rebirth rolled into one moment of ultimate vulnerability. Belle's response to this gesture will determine not only the immediate future of their relationship, but also EJ's fundamental understanding of redemption and forgiveness. If she rejects his plea, it may confirm his worst fears about the impossibility of genuine change and redemption for someone with his history. The cascade of consequences. When everything falls apart, the domino effect of EJ's failed courtroom strategy continues to reverberate through every aspect of his life, creating a cascade of consequences that threatens to destroy everything he holds dear. Johnny's legal situation remains precarious. Belle has ended their relationship decisively, and EJ's professional reputation has been severely damaged by his unethical tactics. The isolation EJ now faces is comprehensive and devastating. His romantic relationship is over, his son faces imprisonment despite his efforts, and his standing in Salem's legal community has been compromised. The support systems he once took for granted have crumbled, leaving him to face the consequences of his actions alone. This complete collapse forces EJ to confront fundamental questions about his identity and values. Without the external validation of professional success and romantic companionship, he must examine whether the person he has become is worthy of the love and respect he desperately seeks. The path forward for EJ remains uncertain, but it clearly requires a level of genuine self-reflection and change that he has previously avoided. His willingness to kneel before Belle represents the first step in what may be a long journey toward authentic redemption, or the final act of a man who has lost everything worth fighting for. As Salem watches this drama unfold, the questions of forgiveness, redemption, and the possibility of genuine change take center stage, challenging viewers to examine their own beliefs about second chances and the power of love to overcome even the most devastating betrayals.